All right, everybody gather around, gather around. This is important. We're going to be talking about credit today. This is the second in a series on, well, we already went over the first series, which was if you should buy a house. Now we're to the point of, we're taking on the topic of how to put yourself in a position to buy a house, the step-by-step process to be able to successfully purchase a house in as quickly a period of time as possible. Okay, today we're going to be talking about getting your credit ready. Now, this is a big topic. It's a topic that's fraught with perils, and it's just there's just a ton of chances to go ahead for unintended consequences and for you to actually hurt yourself when you're doing things that you think should be helping yourself. So anyway, I'm going to try to keep it short, again, less than 5 or 6 minutes, but we'll probably end up talking with credit over the next couple of things because it's that big a topic. It's one of the three tiers, the three peers of mortgage banking. You have to have the ability to make your payment, the willingness to make the payment, and we have to have the security if you don't make your payment. So this is the willingness to make your payment, how you have paid your bills in the past as reported on your credit report. All right. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to go write this down, www.freeannualcreditreport.com. Okay, let me check that to make sure I'm telling that to you right. No, I told you wrong. www.annualcreditreport.com. That's the official one. Okay, there's some scammy ones out there that will end up charging you, but you should be able to get all three bureaus, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, which are the three major credit bureaus. You should be able to get all the raw data that they have. Now, they don't put it in a format that's super duper easy to read or anything like that. They're not going to help you out that way. And they don't provide you with credit scores either. Now, I do believe that there's the opportunity to buy your other credit scores. And it's not a bad idea, but the one thing I want you to recognize about credit scores, other than the fact that they should be illegal, at least in my opinion, is that the different models can vary tremendously. You might be getting on your charge card a thing that says, oh, my credit score is 655. And then when I pull a credit report on you to buy a house, it turns out to be 612. Well, why was my Experian credit report 655 on Credit Karma and 655 when you pulled a credit? It's because we use different models. Okay, as a mortgage banker, we use one of the mortgage models. As a charge card, they're going to use a charge card model. If it's something like Credit Karma, they're going to use a generalized model, and they're all going to have different criteria. They're all looking for different things. I personally don't think that they're terribly accurate, and I've seen people that have had fairly bad credit on their credit report whose credit scores weren't that bad. And vice versa. I've seen other people who've never had a late pay who've had a 612 credit score. There are probably people who could explain why that is better than me, but personally, if it's that off base, I don't think it should be. I personally don't think it should be allowed. One, I think it's discriminatory because they take the types of credit that you have, if not discriminatory, at least punitive towards folks that are of lesser economic means. Okay, I'll give you an example. If you go out and you pay for something on a loan program, you buy some furniture and you pay for it with a 90 days same as cash or 120 days same as cash, that loan is generally through a finance company. And one of the things that the credit reporting, that the credit scoring models take into account is who lent you the money. Okay, and if it's a finance company, they ding you. Okay, well, if you're a rich person, you probably don't mess with the 120 days same as cash. You just put it on your Visa and arrange for the delivery. So anyway, enough of my thing about credit scoring. I don't think, no one listens to me anyway, but I do not think that it should be illegal. It should be legal, but again, nobody listens to me. So, but anyway, it is what it is. And in order to be able to play the game, we have to play with the credit scores and what's on your credit report. So the first step is to go ahead and get your credit report and get the credit score so we have an idea where we're jumping off from. Okay. Ideally, I want you to get all three bureaus and I want you to get all three scores. Okay, again, the scoring model that they're used is not necessarily going to be the one that your mortgage lender uses. So, recognize that there could be some differences. And generally speaking, I do think that the mortgage models are a little bit harsher than the generalized model. So where you might end up with a 700 credit score on a general Credit Karma type of score, when you go to your mortgage, you might be a 672. So there could be, you know, a fairly substantial difference. And I do think the mortgage model tends to be a little bit harsher. So, again, it's a more of like a gas tank. It doesn't have to be exactly accurate, but you do want to know exactly, you know, at least a pretty good idea of how much gas is left in the tank. So anyway, that's number one. Let's find out where it's at. Number two, I want you to be very, 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 very careful with what you do with that information. Okay. Again, as I mentioned earlier, credit scoring is fraught with unintended consequences. I can't tell you how many times I've had people come to me and say, "Oh, I knew I was going to buy a house, so I went ahead and paid off all my back debts. I had a bunch of bunch of charged off accounts, and I went ahead and I called them all up and I paid them off." And then we pulled a credit score, and they say, "Oh my God, I was at a 615, and now I'm at a 528." Well, it's because of the way the scoring models work. So you got to be very, very, very careful. The other thing is that, especially when it comes to paying things off, sometimes you can end up shooting yourself in the foot for another 6 or 7 years. If you go ahead and you pay off an account, let's say it was been charged off for 6 years. First of all, time heals all wounds when it comes to credit scoring. So the longer it's been since you've fallen down, since you had a charged off account or something like that, the less it's going to count. The credit scoring models and the mortgage underwriting really concentrates on the last 2 years. So when you get to a charged off account that's 5 or 6 or 7, you know, it's supposed to drop off at 7 years, but it's 5 or 6 years old. You might not. It might be better just to leave it be and to leave it there on a balance. Leave the charged off balance on there. If it's marked as a charged off, most of the time the underwriter, while they take it into consideration in the whole picture, most of the time they're not going to make you pay off a charged off account. So again, that's going to vary on the program and on a particular underwriter and the rest of your credit package. But again, be very, very careful before you pay off something, especially if it's an older account. The time that it stays on your credit report is based on the date of last activity. So let's say that something was 6.5 years old, okay, on your credit report, and you went ahead and paid it off today. Today will be the date of the last activity. So that's going to stay on your credit report for an entire another 7 years, to where if you just waited 6 months, it would have dropped off on its own accord. And then, you know, if you chose to go ahead and pay the people off, then more power to you. But it wouldn't hurt you for the next 7 years. So be very careful. I encourage you strongly to get with an experienced loan officer, credit counselor. There's a number of free credit counseling programs through HUD. Anyway, that's number two. Number one was go ahead and find out where you stand. Number two is be very careful what you do with that information. So we're about a little bit over 8 minutes, so I'm going to break this off now. But thank you very much for tuning in. I'm Bob, the Mortgage Coach Mitchell. If this is the sort of thing that you're finding helpful, definitely subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps. We're in the first stages of putting it together, as you can tell. The production value is not as good as it's going to be. I got a guy who's working on putting together a better situation, a better presentation, I guess I should say. But in the meantime, I want to give you some good information. If you're thinking about wanting to buy a house, this is where you need to start. You really need to start with putting some money to away, which was the video from the other day, and then looking at your credit, finding out where you stand, and then be careful who you ask for advice. Also, I'm going to put in the description a link to a company that I use. It's a legitimate fix-your credit company. Be very careful. Do not call one of those signs that you see, handwritten looking signs along the road saying 1-800-we-fix-bad-credit or whatever. Some of those are out and out scams. I can't say that they all are, but you got to be very careful. The company I'm going to put into the description, I personally have referred clients to them and seen them successfully help the folks. So anyway, again, I'm Bob, the Mortgage Coach Mitchell. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any comments, please leave them below, and have a great day. And let's put you into a house. Bye-bye.